Alright, it just occurred to me that I haven't shot any video on this car. It's a 94 Metro, no AC, standard EGR valve, 4-door, manual transmission. The car is in rough to horrible shape. We're doing a drivetrain restoration on it. I've already pulled the engine out, and car barely made it here. I've got a bunch of stuff piled up here. I think I've got the timing belt buried now, but the timing belt was, it's laying in here. It was almost cut in half. The tensioner on the, let's walk back here where I've got the engine. I'm trying to do a little catch-up video here. Normally I would have shot 3 or 4 times by now, but the tensioner bolt was, for the timing belt, was loose, and the belt was coming apart because it was able to walk around. He drove it to me on 1.5 cylinders. You can see that obviously this cylinder right here has a serious problem, and probably this one too, or excuse me, this one. The oil consumption's way high on this one, so I'm sure it's dead. And then when you look on the block, you can see it's easier to look on the head, but you've got the oil staying here, not burning off, and that's a good sign that that cylinder wasn't running because it's not up to temperature. And you know, the water pump and stuff is actually, you know what, water pump's old and the bearing's out in it, obviously, because they always are, but it hasn't leaked, it doesn't look like. So it's probably an OEM factory style water pump. This is not the original motor to this car. Somebody swapped it out with a used one, and I know that because it's got the wrong crankshaft bolt. It should be a 5-bolt crank, and this is a 4-bolt. Absolutely no difference, and you can switch them and swap them around all you want. But this has an early style square tooth belt, so this motor's like out of a 89 to 92 model, if I remember right. At any rate, I was just putting it on the teardown bench here, and gonna get her whipped apart and make it shiny and brand new again. You know, one of the most frequent emails I get from people is they can't get their cylinders to hone out correctly. And I've just honed these out. For starters, you have to have a drill motor that has an adjustable speed. I don't care if you're using air or electric, but you got to have the knob to control the speed on it, or put a oh, I forgot what they're called, but variable adjustable a rheostat on your drill motor. You know, cut the cord, put one on it up at the wall or whatever. And the RPM is really important. It's and that has everything to do with the stone you're using, a little practice. But like these cylinders, the shadow in here makes it hard, but they're just flawless. And I mic them before I start, and then I mic them all the way through. And because if you get too far out, you really do need to bore them. But a stock Geo just really needs to be cleaned up a little bit, get rid of the ring groove. I've done 3 rebuilds before on motors and honed them out before you get to a bore, so you never need a bore. In fact, if you do need the motor bore out, you have to ask yourself what the heck happened. Usually I find it's because somebody sat in here for 20 minutes with a hone and took all the material out. Dial indicator goes a long ways to see that you're only removing thousandths of an inch. Remember, a human hair is between 3 and 5 thousandths, so don't, you're not going very far. I'm just trying to wipe this out, just to the absolute what it takes to make it look perfect. Nice and easy up and down, just float. Oh, and then there's another thing that will help you. I know a lot of people break stones honing, but I have a plate that I've made. You can just find something, and I drop this down, and it sits on the lip of the bottom of where it's an aluminum block, obviously alloy block with a steel sleeve, and the sleeve is pressed into that notch. Let me turn my flashlight on here. And let me back up a little ways here. Anyhow, so that spot right down there and the spot on the other side, that piece drops down there and sets on it, and you can rotate the crank so it's completely under the cylinder wall. And then when your hone, let me turn my flashlight off. Then when your hone drops down, instead of it hitting those and breaking it or twisting it or bending it or putting it out of balance, which is really common, it just skates on this perfectly even, and allows you to float up and all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. And and then remember, the very bottom of the cylinder doesn't have to be honed, so I get away with putting this little disc in here because the piston doesn't drop out of the cylinder wall. So we're just covering the area where the ring floats or slides. Just a little FYI. Again, getting your Metro done is so cheap. You know, I tell everybody, do it yourself. You can do it, but if you don't have all the right tools, I mean, shoot, you could spend half the money of a rebuild just buying tools. I mean, it's just like a hone. If you didn't know what you're doing in here, you'll break 3 hones before you get done with this, just from plunging too far. And even if you buy cheap Harbor Freight hones, you're still $100. If you're buying Snap-on ones, you're gonna bend them up. God, you could break $600 worth of hones in an hour. You know, just, you know, everybody's an expert. You know, my brain surgeon, if he drives a Geo, I don't expect him to know how to rebuild it, and it doesn't make him a lesser person. And I don't know how to do brain surgery, so everybody should do what they do best. And if you want to learn, go for it. Just take your time and be gentle. It doesn't take much, but if you want it perfect, you know, if you're a smidge off here and a smidge off there, you know, you got 4 or 5 things in the motor that aren't quite right. That's a big thing. If you, I mean, it takes a lot. You know, when you see these motors I build, and they have perfect compression, they're completely even, they use absolutely no oil. Those motors are loved. You know, this is not throw it together in an hour or two. You know, it's a whole day of just assembly after this is put together, and torquing and screwing around and rotating the motor and taking and squishing the bearings and measuring them and taking them apart. You know, I mean, before the motor's completed, it's probably truly had every bolt taken apart and put together 3 times. You know, once for the disassembly, once to put it together to mic it on back apart, and if it has to be readjusted, then remiked and then put back together and torque. So I mean, potentially you could be 4 times, especially on the rod bearings. Just a little, and here I'm just trying to get a hold of the camera here somewhere, so I'm just trying to give you, you know, does the light do anything for you? These LED lights are too bright. It's like a strobe light. Well, then I don't have it wiped out in the bottom either, so you're seeing, show you what I mean. You can see the material there, in there that needs to be cleaned out, but that's just a little FYI, just something for you at home to think about. You know, and I know lots of people go, oh, I rebuilt a lawnmower and it worked just fine. I seriously doubt it. You just didn't use it very often. And if you had to drive that thing for, you know, an hour a day each way to work, can you imagine your lawnmower? What kind of, I seriously doubt some throw together $15 rebuild on your 6-horse Briggs, you know, will stand up to 2 hours a day of lawn mowing. I mean, it just if you know you want really good stuff, you go to a builder. I don't know, I'm just rambling now, but it's honing. It's nice and even plunges, probably about that speed. Lots of fluid in there. Use automatic transmission fluid, oil, WD-40, solvent. Each one of them just changes at the speed, at the rate at which it cuts. And you're just trying to control heat. It's all about friction. Okay, just doing the pistons. You can see well, I don't know if you can see it, but the lower ring is stuck, like all of them. There's your oil consumption problem. I actually haven't even looked in the head because this car's getting a head and cam package. So here's the old camshaft, and then this is the head all broken down into pieces, and the head's on the Bridgeport getting decked. And anyhow, I'm putting some rings in it, so we're of course factory NPR G10 standard 74mm rings, and these are D pistons because it's an old motor. Rings are still all the same and stuff. In fact, it doesn't even really matter. As long as you have all the same letters on the pistons, they all weigh the same. You will not find a motor that's more balanced than a factory Metro engine. They are phenomenal. But being that they fire in 120 degrees, if you take them in and have them rebalanced, you can pick the RPM you want them balanced for, because they can't be balanced like a 2-cylinder or a 4-cylinder or 6 or 8-cylinder, and even piston motor, because each one fires individually, and so you just pick an RPM and they put a weight on it, and I have my own personal cruiser. I have it balanced for I can't remember what it is. I think it's balanced for 2100 RPM or something, 2000 RPM. And if you were racing it, you'd balance it for, like, say 5500 or 6500 RPM, wherever you want to keep your foot in it. The airplanes would be, wherever the cruise RPM is, blah blah, or not at all. You're always out somewhere, but it is nice to have a motor that's balanced for the actual RPM you're cruising. And 3-cylinder is its own little weird deal, and you don't have that problem on a 2-stroke. I might add on 3-cylinders, so they don't go through that. It's just a 4-stroke 3-cylinder. At any rate, I'm gonna shut this camera off, and I'm gonna whip some rings together here and clean some pistons up, and we'll probably come back when I'm installing them, or just installed. Not that it's any surprise or anything, but, like, here's the seal that just came out of the front of the motor, just completely rock hard. But it's not 100%. I don't think it was leaking. I actually think this came from above. The valve cover gasket leaked up here and worked its way down. But we throw them away and make them new. Okay, you can take a look here. This rear main seal is just awful. It just falls apart. I mean, I can just literally, it's just, oops, get the camera shot in there. It's just horrendous. Well, that's why we're doing this. Alright, I'm not going to go through the whole procedure. Watch my other videos. But after you get done filing the tips off that clutch disc so you can install it, and if you don't file these and watch one of my videos and see what I do there, you'll regret it if you're doing this at home, obviously. I guess we're ready to put a pressure plate on there. This clutch disc in this car is just destroyed. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but it's stuck to the pressure plate. Must have been overheated horribly at some time. I'm not 100% sure. Didn't really drive the car before I started. Okay, so the engine block's back in, and obviously the water pump's on at the tensioner, seals and stuff. Just putting the starter back in it. What I'm really waiting for now is I got to get the head built for it, and I'm gonna get this ugly engine compartment all cleaned up and pressure washed off so it looks like it's worthy of the road. I'm not sure if it had stop leak in the radiator or not, or if that's just, oh yeah, that's just stop leak. Nice. Copper seal. Well, I hope it doesn't need a radiator after we flush it. Interesting. I wonder when that got put in, because I don't know. It's definitely pumped full. Somebody must have thought it had a blown head gasket. I don't think that was the case. Not sure. Not really worried about it. We'll get past that when we get there. Now this is the head that came off the car, not the one that's getting put back on, because I always do an exchange on the heads, but I don't see a blown head gasket on it. I mean, the head gasket isn't ugly. This is the side that faces the head, and the copper seal you can see from the stop leak. But around the gasket, I don't see anything blown. It's not the original head gasket, so I'm guessing somebody a long time ago must have put stop leak in it because it had a blown head gasket, then replaced it. Probably why it has two burnt exhaust valves now, because the valves got too hot when it overheated. That valve's burnt off there. You can see how it's flat, and you can see how this one's flat across there too. And then obviously The last cylinder is all it was running on. And I'm sure the valves are just beat to crap on the intake and exhaust anyhow. Not a big deal. But that's what happened to it. Here's a good example of why I cut the timing covers off. Not that it doesn't make it super convenient to change the let me back the camera up here, to change the belt and service it and check it every time you check the oil when you're getting gas, but I mean, like 99% of them are cut through or almost cut through. This one was just cutting through because the timing belt was left completely loose, and it was just walking its way off and ripping itself up. But all you need to do is retain this section right here, this bolt here and this bolt over here, and the marker. I just cut them right through here and right through here. It's easy, something you can do yourself. You could use anything you wanted. I use a chop saw. And then on this particular car, it's an older engine in a later model car, but the motor came out of an automatic, and when they switched the flywheel over, they put the automatic flex plate washer over the flywheel and then the bolts down. Not that it does anything at all, but it just tells you that the people that worked on it had no idea what they were doing. Not even mechanics, because I mean that's common on all kinds of cars. So probably something done at home. Okay, so now I've got the head's been bridge ported. It's been CC'd. Now I've taken the valve train out of it, and so what I'm using is this particular tool right here that runs the valve grind, and it's machined perfectly for the guides. This is something I normally don't show in the videos. There's a lot of stuff I don't show in the videos because it takes so much time to edit. I'm the worst person for getting videos put up on time, usually weeks behind. But I'm just checking the guides to make sure they're perfect, and then I just put anti-seize on the tool so it slides in nice. You won't find a bad valve guide on a Geo. It just doesn't happen. Every once in a while you'll find a cylinder that's leaned out, and on the exhaust port, because obviously that's where the heat, you'll see the tip of it melted. You'll just see it all rounded off and it's melted, and then the tool will still fit in there perfect. I replace those guides just because I try to make everything new, but you can reuse that with no problem at all. Sometimes I question why I even take them out. The tip of the brass valve will just round out because it just got hotter than Satan, but they still be in perfect operating forever and ever and ever. Just FYI, if you're doing it at home, it's not the end of the world when you see that. In fact, if you take one of your valves, you don't have to use this tool. You can use an exhaust valve and just put it in there and you'll feel it's perfect. And you're probably driving on it anyhow. But it's something that could happen. Alright, so I'm going to get ready. I'm going to cut the head, and then I'm going to get it ported out and get this put together. I'm going to see if I can make this thing a runner in the next few hours. Okay, I get a lot of emails, and I thought I'd address it in this video of why take so much time to cut the valve seats and grind the valves and lap them in and all that good stuff, when lawnmower guys just lap valves in and reuse them over and over and over and over and blah 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 blah. It's because it's not a lawnmower. There's the first answer, and the second answer is I want this thing to last all the way to the end and work really really well. It's like the intake valves. We reuse them because the cold air runs over them, but they're truly wore out. I don't know if you can see my fingernail getting caught on there, but that line that you see there that's lighter, that's way in there. There's a big divot, and that's from it riding inside the valve seat, and it acts just like a hammer, and it's just beating the center of the valve. That's where the valve touches, right in the middle where it hits the seat. So it's just beating itself against this thing, and we can cut that and clean it up. And we don't do it to the exhaust valve. You can, but they don't last very long at all. 20,000-30,000 miles is usually all they'll do it the most, because we cut so much off of them, and the heat, they're too thin. On the intake valve, there's no heat, so we can do a lot of happy stuff with them, and you can use them over and over and over. Probably do 2 or 3 valve jobs with this Geo valve with no problem on an intake. An exhaust, we just throw it away. If you look at the top of the valve, I don't know if this camera will show it. Let me drop it in here. Maybe that'll hold it. You can actually see a lip over here. That little edge right there, that's actually up. And that's the material that's been beat up from the valve seat. So you're continuously bending the valve up and up and up and up. And when we cut that off, it makes it too sharp and too thin, and then the metal can get hot and melt quicker because it can, well, it's just thinner. The reason the valve doesn't melt when it's new is because it's stainless, so that deals with the temperature. And the structure of the material is obviously changed using stainless. But more than anything, we're using the thickness for it to dissipate the heat through it and hold itself together. Just a little FYI. So the reason I go through and do all this, and I don't do it like a lawnmower, is because all these motors that you guys are doing in these Geos, for the most part, that I'm seeing, people at repair shops, they don't have like the small stones to do this. These are tiny little valves. If you go to somewhere where they do V8s and stuff, they don't have valves that small. You know, I mean, it's got to be, I mean, tiny, tiny stuff. And so they hand lap stuff in, and just, that's just what happens, you know. That's like I always say, you know, a lawnmower shop is more qualified to work on your Geo Metro than a repair shop most of the time, because they work on single-cylinder engines, and a Geo is closer to a single-cylinder because it fires at 120 degrees than it does a 2-cylinder, 4-cylinder, or 8-cylinder. Just you just got to bring the level up to, you know, like if we were going to go race this thing, this is exactly what we would be doing. The only thing I don't do to a Geo is I don't cut a 3-cut 45s on them, a 3-way cut on the valves. Number one, we don't need it, and number two, I like to leave all the material I can. But if we were going to go race it, and I might do it if we were going to take the head apart every 2 or 3 races. But in the street application, there's no reason to do that at all. Alright, I'm going to move on here. Alright, I'm just porting the head out on it, and I don't recommend anybody do this at home. You can actually ruin the porting by, just because you get in there and grind on it doesn't mean it's better. 99% shit. It's at least 75% of the time, if you're actually working on a flow bench where you're pulling air through it, you can measure CFM. Getting and importing a stock head, you'll actually make it worse. The factory did it too. I've spent years doing this. You can, I don't know if there's enough light here, but it's like down around the nub where the aluminum extrudes out, where the valve guide is pressed in. You know, I've blended that, and God, it's just, I don't know if you can see it. Normally I don't show this because it's like people feel empowered. In fact, if you think you can just pour your head out and you've never done it before, I'll just say right now you're a retard. You know, I mean, just, you can't. Trust me, you'll just screw it up. Over the years, I've thrown more heads away on Geos than I can count, because when you got done, they just never flowed right. And you can't fix them. Once you take the material out, it's gone. But, yeah, it's, you know, and then you reposition the air nozzles in there. A lot of people grind the air nozzles out, but I don't, because it makes where they eject the air too far away from the center of the valve guide. And I relocated actually about 25 to 30% out. But I don't know if you can see that. I'll give you some shots of it. It doesn't really show you what I've done all that much. That's one I haven't done yet. It's hard to see. But it takes about an hour per hole to do when you know what you're doing. I got about 15 more minutes left on this one. And that's me, and I'm really good at it because I do the same thing over and over and over like a robot. So I could see somebody getting in here and playing and going nice and slow and stuff if they knew what they were doing. You could have 6 hours into doing a head with no problem. Just a little info there, and that's the difference between getting the good gas mileage on it. Just like cutting the head on it. I have a template that I've built over the years for doing these combustion squench plates. You know, just everybody's like, oh, that's no big deal, it's just some little grind marks. Well, it is a big deal, and if you want it to work, got to do it right. I'm going to try to show you how bad an intake valve is on a Geo, and maybe you can see the valve from the back here, and how we can make it brand new again. And the reason why we don't reuse the exhaust valve. Except to get up to the stone. We haven't even started to cut both sides of the valve yet. See, all we've done is started to cut the top of the valve. We haven't even got to the bottom of the valve yet. I'll go really slow. I like a nice clean cut. I think we've cut. So now if you look, I'll get this oil off of here. We've just now started to touch the top. We've just now started to... Not sure if you heard a word I said. I'm trying to show the intake valve on how bad they are. We've just started to touch the top and the bottom, or the top and the bottom of the valve, and the rest of it is just a giant dish. And we're going to cut it all down so that thing's dished out from being beat on that valve seam like a hammer. And now we're going to cut the two tops down until it's flat all the way across. And that, you can't do that to an exhaust valve. It's just too small. And there's just not enough meat left. In fact, I'm going to flip it on. I don't know if you can hear a word I'm saying when this noisy thing's running. Well, yeah, I don't have to grind it out. I just did this one. I haven't buffed it off yet, but you can see that versus this one I've just started to touch. Let me get the camera back a little ways. And it's clean because the oil's on it, but well, there's a good, that black line you see right down the middle here, that's a big old dish. You could put your fingernail in there. I don't know if that shows you anything. Some of you motorheads out there might think you know what you're looking at. Some of you might even understand what I'm talking about. Alright, so it's time for some valves, and I want to show you how you know. Hold on a second, I'm going to set the camera down. I'm going to buy valves. Holy smokes, that's noisy. To know if you have a stainless valve, you got to put a magnet on it. Intake valves, steel. Exhaust valves need to be stainless. And just check it with a magnet, and you know. If it's not, take it back and get a different brand. I use this particular brand, and I use PEP racing valves, or just PEP. You can order them online. They're out of Las Vegas. Fairly inexpensive. And they sell a valve if they have it in stock. Half the time they don't. This manufacturer is the same one that supplies Ferrari, and if they use it, I think I use it. Their standards are really, really high. Okay, when you get your camshaft, if you're doing this at home yourself, whatever, it's going to come with a black coating on it. I've sprayed this one down with a little bit of oil, but so it's shiny. But do not clean that off. That's the break-in compound that they put on it. It's a lubricant. Helps the cam lobes break in properly. But do lube the lifters. I don't know if you can see, but I put grease on all the lifters. And this head's just about done. I'm going to slap this together and put it on the car. When you drill out the EGR, you're going to get a lot of material out. This one was completely plugged. You can kind of see the dust from around here. Some of it got blown away. But got to get that hole drilled out so you can see all the way through her again, I should say. And then you need to make sure that the EGR part on the exhaust is clear too. Make sure that hole's cleaned out. Not just, don't poke a hole for it, clean it out. Try to make sure you get these EGR packets cleaned out. Can't just poke a hole in it, it's gotta flow good. I'll show you how I do this, or I'll tell you how I do it. I set the intake manifold in the vise, put the EGR port up. That puts the intake port to the head above the EGR, so when you get it cleared out, you can blow shit out of it. And I put a foam cleaner in there. And then when you spray into the other side, once you get it cleaned out, you'll see it come out the bottom port. And it actually blows out in the middle of the intake, so that just means it's clean. It doesn't have to come out all three. In fact, it won't. And I got about about an hour and a quarter now into cleaning the EGR passages. Okay, so you're gonna make sure you clean this hose out or replace it. Check your diaphragm up here. Sometimes they can be bad. This EGR hole right here is completely plugged solid, and the inside of the EGR is plugged. We're going to clean that up. VGRs never go bad. Clean them out, and just make sure the vacuum diaphragm's good. And I'll get this one drilled. Okay, just fired the motor up, waiting for the lifters to pump up. Some knucklehead has wired the fan directly on, so we're going to put that back to stock and see what's really wrong with it. This is the kind of stuff that people shouldn't do. Just fix it right. I bet it took longer to run this wire than it would have just to fix the problem. Okay, I just took this thing for a test drive, and the car does about 55, 65 max. So I checked the exhaust system, and the catalytic converter is melted down, and part of it's in the resonator. So it's going to need a new cat put on it. And the exhaust cleaned out. Just running a fuel injection service on it. It has 20 psi fuel pressure, but it sure acts like it's not getting enough fuel volume. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and we'll get the cat fixed first, I guess. But get the feeling the fuel pump is wore out, which wouldn't be out of line because the fuse panel relay grounds on the car were burnt up. And the fan has been rewired, and the same power or same ground operates the ECM, the fan, the computer, and the blower fan for the heater inside. So it's a huge draw when the connection gets bad. A lot of times send you an email and give you the good news that you need to spend $300 on a cat, so we can take her out for a test drive. And I've already tried driving and it's not plugged like from oil, it's actually melted. Good time. Well, at least we can idle it here and get the injector all cleaned out, so we're not wasting too much time. Okay, so we're going to put a catalytic converter on it at some point here. You can hear the cat when it broke apart. Some of it's in there, and the rest of it's up here blocking the system. And then these axles from just test driving it. No torn boots, they're just physically wore out from age. They should have had the grease changed in them 2 or 3 times by now, but they're still factory sealed. So there's no fixing those, so I'm going to need some axles put in it. Not a big deal, time to do it. And axles are cheap. And still got a nice stainless steel muffler on it, so that thing's going to last for forever. Yeah, we'll go from there. I'll get you there. Alright, I'm just starting on these brakes. The calipers are well, they're just tight. It's completely stuck. Somebody tried to sneak another set of pads into them, but nobody lubed anything. So the rotors are just heated up like heck. Yeah, not a good brake job that somebody just did. They just did it. Those pads are like brand new. It's too bad too, because now we're going to throw them away. Both sides look that way. Yeah, they shouldn't be black. They're actually heated up. I will cut them and make them look new again. Oh, the rotors are a little warped, but we'll make them look brand new again. You can see the warp in them as it fluctuates in and out where it missed it on the last cut. I'm not sure these rotors have ever been turned. I didn't check them to start with, but there's lots of meat on them. So this is not so bad. Alrighty, just put the final pass on here. So I cut them with one bit, and then I do what I call my satin finish to them, where they just machine them off just perfectly. I think it makes the brakes work a lot better and surely makes them last longer than if you just go to the machine shop and have them do a regular cut. They just rip the material off, and the rotor just doesn't have the correct finish. Anyhow, this one's just perfect. I'll go ahead and load the other ones up, and I'm getting ready to put some wheel bearings in and some brake shoes on the rear. Well, the front hubs have rust coming out of the wheel bearings. They're junk on both sides. I throw these nasty things away, but look at that. So this front end, I don't know, it must have sat in some water. That's not a normal thing. Something must be a deep mud puddle, but that thing was full of water and rusted it away. We'll fix it with new bearings. It's not that big of a deal. The rear doesn't have any rust on it, but it is all factory still, so the shoes are wore out. So I put a new hardware kit in here, some shoes, and make it new again. And obviously we're going to replace these nasty wheel bearings. I didn't even check to see if they were bad or not. I just buzzed them off of both sides. Let's see. And same thing, just completely wore out. But these are factory shoes, so it gives you guys an idea. I can't remember how many miles are on this car, but it's probably in this video. That tells you how long the stuff can last if you maintain it a smidge. Okay, as you put the front wheel bearings back, I catch my breath. Put the wheel bearings back in here. Now I'm putting the hub back on. Make sure you anti-seize the hub. And what I wanted to show people at home is when you pop your hub off, this is the other side, you're going to see this collar, this ring. You have to put that on there. If not, without that spacer, it'll lock up against the rotor and the wheel won't turn. So just make sure you you have two thumbs. Get that dropped on there. And go from there. Alright, the slides on these calipers being rusty and locked up, that's what ruined the rotors and pads. Just got to clean all this. Oops, put the camera in the right spot. Clean that all up, lube it all up. Make sure I'll just lube everything up. Oh, I've been working on this thing all day long. I forgot where I was at on it. The front brakes are done on it. New pads, rotor, calipers, everything's lubed. Front wheel bearings. Rear shoes are now installed. New hardware kit. It's ready to be painted. I've got the drums over on the back bench. What else do I got here? Yeah, it's time to tap in some wheel bearings into the drums. And then what am I doing next? Oh, lost my mind here. Maybe I need to go have dinner. Oh, then the tires. And we'll get those balanced out. Alright, I know I go over this on every video. When you get done with your brake job, paint all the hardware. It really does make the stuff last longer. Oops, because I keep it. Oh, and the side's ready to go too. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Don't worry about getting it on the shoes. And this can leaks. And that's good enough. And I've got the drums are all machined up, so they've been turned. The brand new wheel bearings are in there, and it's all ready to go back together. So we'll get it put back together and get some tires on it. And I know I didn't check these before I took them off because I just threw all the wheel bearings away, but That's perfect and quiet. I can assure you it wasn't that good before we started. Alright, I got this 3 of 94 Geo that has everything wrong with it. But I'm trying to make it run right, and I've changed the map sensor and no check engine light, so I couldn't figure out what was going on there. And now I just realized the check engine light doesn't even work. It looks like the computer's burnt up in it. And now that I've spent half a day going over it and checking everything and resetting everything, and every sensor on it seems to be working correctly, so the light on the dash isn't coming on for the check engine light, so we'll just assume that in fact, let me show you what I mean. Bum ba bum 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 bum. There's supposed to be a check engine light right there, and the car runs like crap. I'm sure the computer's bad. Probably has something to do with this fuse panel burn up that it had in it. Alright, I just installed 2 new axles in this thing. Make sure that you peen your axle over with a punch, or at least hit it with a hammer so the axle nut can't back off. I've had that happen. And then obviously it's got brand new axles on both sides. And peened over on this side too. Should put anti-seize on all your nuts and bolts. Okay, I feel like I just came up for air on this one. I put a new fuse panel, or a used fuse panel in it, because this one got burnt up. Oh, there's not enough light down here. God, this is a lot of work. I hate these. This thing has some kind of alarm system. I don't know if it's got some kind of low jack system in it or a tracking device that's mounted up in here. I wired everything back in because I don't want to mess with the alarm system. I don't know where the module is. Take this thing to Car Toys and have them take all this crap out. But it looks like it has some kind of tracking system. Obviously you don't mount a GPS antenna underneath out of the side of the windshield. So I don't know what the hell that is. Somebody keeping track of their kids or their wife or husband or something. Good times. And I just have the dash to put back together, and oh my god, this car is just killing me. What do we got left on this thing? Oh, there's quite a bit to go on this thing. It needs this one is truly wore out. I haven't put this much time and effort into one of these things in a long time. Kind of get the feeling that this is how it's going to be from now on, because there just aren't any good Metros left out there. And this one doesn't look like it's all in that terrible shape when they bought it. So they're just getting old. A lot of years, a lot of miles. What does this one got for miles on it? Yeah, she's got 209,620. And yeah, I'm going to shut this thing off and finish putting this together. I think I'm done for the night. These are the Hackola things that drive me crazy. I don't mess with stereo stuff, but this stereo needs to be taken apart and the right connections put on. Somebody ran speaker wire. You can see it laying there. It runs across the floor. I hate to tell you, but the wires are in the body already. You don't have to run anything. Just install the speakers in the right spot in the back and in the trunk. Oh, people, you're killing me. Okay, what I've done is I put the old distributor back in, and I put the one back in the Christmas Geo, and it's over there running. I'm going to show you the difference on the timing, what's going on. It's not advancing. So you can see the timing mark there. Let's see if I don't know if the camera's going to record this. Oh, I bet it does. Okay. That might work. You're looking right here. Watch the timing mark. It's the one that disappears there. And you'll be able to hear it too. It's not rotating forward far enough or fast enough. Hear that? Tried to pop through the intake because the timing didn't advance. I'll step over to the other car. See if we get the same angle. Oh, you know, I don't know if this has got a speed mark on it, you can see. Well, you can hear the difference. Oh yeah, you can see it. Well, you can just hear it. But I really wanted you to be able to see it. I wish I had an extra hand. Oh, I can do this right here. See how it's advancing? The other distributor's not. Alright, I'm a little pressed for time at the moment, but I'm putting the balancing beads in right now. It's simple as pour them in and let them fall in. Yeah, we'll get all 4 tires done. Alright, there's the new catalytic converter and exhaust system. And right now we are going to pop this fuel tank out and put a new fuel pump in it because this one's dead. It's on its way out. This is going to be a sweet runner when it's all done. Nothing like having everything new. Alright, I'm going to shut this thing off and blow that fuel tank out. Well, that's what I was going to do, is show anybody they're going to change their own fuel pump out. There's just 12mm bolts that are around the tank. There's 4 of them, I believe. I could be wrong there. 1, 2, 4, 6 of them. And then those of you that your fuel filter right here, take that out of there. We're going to pop this one out. Take your fuel filter out and take a clear inline one for Volkswagen air-cooled Beetle works nice. Take your Phillips screwdriver, poke a hole through the media so it's not a filter anymore, and use that to connect your 2 hoses back together. And then move the fuel filter to the engine compartment and put it on the pressure side. Cut the line up there and put another Beetle clear one in there, and then you can see the fuel at both ends. Just a little FYI. Alright, I've got the fuel tank out of here. You take your own fuel tank out at home. Sometimes the sending unit will unscrew from the wires will unscrew from the sending unit. Sometimes they're connected. This one's connected, so you just roll it over to the passenger side, or if you're doing it on the ground, slide it over. But what worries me, everything on this car has been monkeyed with, but every screw is usually, you can't get these things out. Look at this, here's one I haven't touched yet. Look at that, screws loose, every one of them. Somebody must have been in here, so it doesn't look like it. I don't know when. I'm not sure. Everything on the car's been monkeyed with a little bit. Alright, for anyone that's interested, that's what a Geo fuel filter looks like. And that's what a Geo sending unit looks like. And if your Geo Metro gas gauge doesn't work, it's probably not the sending unit, it's always the gauge. Engine 1's got to be bad back here, but it's always the gauge. And we'll pop this bad dog off of there and put a new one on it. And we'll tighten the screws up this time. Okay, here's the new fuel filter. It's got holes poked in the media, so it's really just a connection to back here. So there's no fuel filter in the rear of the car anymore. Don't ever change this, leave it on there. It's got a hole in it, and everything just passes right through it. And now we're going to install one under the hood, and that way you just change it under the hood anytime you want, and you can see it all the time. So this is just like if we just put a piece of copper tube or steel pipe in there. It's just a quick, easy way to do it. Alright, so I just cut the fuel line, and we're not doing the return line, we're doing the pressure line because we want to filter everything before it goes into the regulator and the injector. And remember, you're not just cutting the line, you're cutting out the distance of the thickness of the filter so the hose still lies proper. And a couple of hose clamps, make sure they're tight, and you're good to go. Alright, well, I just pressure washed this thing. Got the new wheel caps on it. Oh, well, they're the old wheel caps, but I just redo them. They're shiny, shiny. Put some wipers on it now. I washed the car, bleached the white paint back to white again. It doesn't even look like the same car. I'm not sure that the shadow in here from the lighting I'm using does it justice, but yeah, doesn't look too bad. They start to come together in the end after they're cleaned up really well. Oh, what I was going to do is the wiper. I know I say this every time, but it just drives me crazy when I get in a Metro and it's got the wrong blades on it. 20-inch on the driver's side, 18 on the passenger side. This car has the wrong wiper blades on it, and yeah, I'm just about done with this. It delivers tomorrow, and it's got a little ECM computer problem that we worked around. But this is this car went from old wore-out tired Metro to just drives really nice. Got a couple of little quirks he's going to work on, and it's like back to brand new again. I mean, this thing's got new pumps, new everything that's been in the video. Yeah, you couldn't go wrong with this. If you ever put this up for sale, somebody should just jump right on it. Alright, I'm just finishing up here on the window regulators and everything lubed up. Look at that window, it just floats down and up. I'm all over the place. I'm not even sure how you showed up. It's just nice and smooth. Done. The thing barely rolled up and down a second ago. The driver's side one, I got it just happy. The back ones, God, you can't even move them when I started. Now they just float up and down. The little lubrication goes a long ways. I'm going to show a little trick on how to fix the back door handles on the Geo Metros if you have a 4-door. Sometimes it apply. What year would it apply to? I'm trying to think. You can do the same fix to a front door handle on one of the cars. It's the same style. I just can't remember what it is. Anyhow, so what I do is I take my camera. So I got the door handle out of the back of this 94 Metro. And what happens on these things, let me get the camera straight here, is there's a little funky tab. It's a little tiny baby thing right on. Let me set this down here. I need a pointer. There we go. So there's a little tiny plastic tab that sits right here. You can see it's broken off. And when you pull the door handle, if I can reach in there and operate it, it just virtually pulls it down. And you can kind of see how it would work. This portion of it here pulls it down. Anyhow, the door handles get sticky, frozen, and they just break them off. So what I do is I close the handle on the outside, and that pushes it all the way up to where it's in the cavity. Then I take a drill bit and I drill a hole all the way through. And then on this side here there's a spring, but I do the same thing so it's on both sides so it's twice as strong. And then I just install a zip tie on both sides, and that has a little give and flex. And I imagine if you ever were able to pull the zip ties apart, not very likely I would imagine, you could just replace them again. But it's a good fix. Door handles aren't expensive, but you can break a new door handle just as easy as an old one. And yeah, you gotta take it apart. Something fun to do in the project stage, I guess, if you're just screwing around in the garage. But if that helps anybody. So just, those holes don't exist. I put those in there. So when you install your zip tie, that's how I do it right there. Pulls it down nice and tight. So I get the plastic portion for the tooth part. You just want to put it through so it looks just like that. And then I'll put one on the other side too. And then you can see that, oh, look at that. Amazing. It all works again. Should have been done like that from the factory. And now I've got it installed, so now we have a door handle that works. Another thing you can do on your door handles, and this is kind of a weird thing, but on a Geo, if you use the forward side of the door handle, you can't tell passengers this, but they're less likely to break if you pull on this end. You can see how this one pulls out farther over here, but if you pull on this side that far, it opens. Just a little something to think about. And I got a flashlight here. And that's the mechanism fixed and working happily again. And now this window regulator is all lubed up and rolls up and down nice and smoothly. Alright, so I'm going to get this put back together and all ready to go, I think. Alrighty. Kraig's Metro's all done. It's a good looking car. It's come a long ways. He's done a lot to it. I think these 4 doors now got to be getting, I don't know, they got to be getting pretty close to 4,500, $5,000 now for them. Getting hard to get. This one's really sharp. I always like the white because it's so easy to clean them up. Yeah.